To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. Any time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. Any time to every purpose under heaven. A time to love, a time to hate, a time of war, a time of peace, a time that you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. Any time to every purpose under heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time to love, a time to hate, a time for peace. I know it's not too late.
So today's skit, every week we have a skit, a dramatic performance of some sort, because just like reading a book or watching a movie, as we see things from a different perspective, as our reality, as our perspective shifts, so does our reality. Now, for today's skit is kind of a kind of a one-man show. Father's Day for me is one of the most emotional times, and not long ago, Mary and I are in Toastmasters, and because we're always trying to improve ourselves, we're trying to get better and better and better, and so this was a speech that I had written for the International Toastmasters International Speech Contest, and so I'll share it with you guys today. I know that it's traditional to stand when giving a speech, but what if I wasn't able? I was born with legs that didn't work. The doctors told my folks that they needed to buy their son a chair, but he'd never walk, that I would never walk. My mom, this lady right here, didn't believe that, and she didn't tell me that. Instead, she took me to the Shriners Children's Hospital, and they busted me up, put me in half-body cast, and cut it down to just above the knee, and then just below the knee with big red bars in between. And after years of this, when they took off the last one, they said, "It's a miracle, your son can walk. But I'll never run, jump, or swim." My mom, being a smart lady, didn't tell me, so I did all those things. The title of my speech today is Who Wants to Be a Daddy? The first words I heard from my dad were, "I don't want him. He's broke." Like a toy car with bent wheels that you just throw away. Because my legs didn't work, I was imperfect. I needed to be thrown away, I didn't matter. Who wants to be a dad? That's the first words I heard from mine. When I was 5, I had destroyed enough of his possessions that he decided it was a good idea that I go live with my mom. It's a story for another time. And I got to meet another guy named Dad. This guy's name was Stepdad. Stepdad. What's this about? When he was sober, a nice enough guy. But then he'd drink. And when he drank, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde would switch places. And whoever would be closest to him was going to get hurt. And I was 5, so I was man of the house. If there was a beating to take, it would be mine. Because one thing I learned at a very early age was that physical pain was easier to deal with than the emotional pain of hearing my mom or my sisters get hurt. So when he'd crack those cans and start to pour them down, I'd muster up my 5-year-old self and I'd make sure I was the guy standing closest to him. I will tell you from experience that there's a very unique sound, a very unique thud that comes from a 6-foot-plus man hitting a 5-year-old kid repeatedly. I remember distinctly on multiple occasions being thrown across the room and hitting the wall and thinking that didn't hurt so bad. And then like a Wile E. Coyote cartoon, realizing there's no outsmarting gravity and that floor had no give to it. And when I would hit that ground, if I was still conscious, if I was still in control of my body, I would run back and I'd get some more. Because if I got him tired enough, he'd pass out and I'd be safe. Who wants to be a dad? By this point, I was realizing that dad was the only 4-letter word in the English language that took only 3 letters. When I was 8, I got to meet another guy named Dad. This guy's name was Adopted Dad. Adopted me when I was 8 years old. And one day he said, "Come, let's go to the park, let's have a talk." And so we went to the park, and here I am with new dad, adopted dad. And we're at the park, and I'm watching other dads push their kids on the teeter-totter and push them on the swing and play with them. And my dad said, "Let's have a talk. Let's just be honest with one another. I hate you and you hate me. So let's come to an agreement. I won't charge you rent. I'll buy your food. I'll buy you new school clothes once a year. Anything you want outside of that, put on your Christmas or birthday list or get a job." I'm 8. Okay, who wants to be a dad? It seemed like a real good proposition to me. Now, about 20 years after that, my mom and dad number 3, adopted dad, got divorced, and about a decade ago, my mom met this guy. Needless to say, I wasn't real excited. Didn't have a great track record here to be going on when I got to meet him for the first time, and he's no small feller. So I met him for the first time. I said, "Look, dude, if you hurt my mom the way any of these other guys have, I will end you." And he looks down at me and he says, "If I ever hurt your mom like that, I'll end myself." Hey, wait a second, I got some common ground here. This is kind of cool. Well, next thing you know, this thing develops. This thing's developed. He wants to hear what I have to say. He's asking, what are your dreams and how can I make them happen? How can I help you become whoever you want to be? No matter how odd it may seem to a man who never missed a Catholic Sunday for decades, to say, I got a son who's psychic, who's going to be a minister of a little church called Connection. Yeah, baby, let's go. Talks to dead people. Yes, these energy. That's my boy. But there he was, and you know, I'd be out sanding a deck, and he was the guy on speed dial, saying, "Man, what grit sandpaper do I use? How do I do this and how do I do that?" I was finally understanding what it was like, what the experience was for somebody who wanted to be a dad. Now, just before I married my wife, he came to me and he said, "Man, this is darn near ridiculous because, you know, you're a 37-year-old man," he said, "but I've always considered you my son. And I wanted to ask you this for the last several years. I've been married to your mom. And if I don't ask you before you marry your wife and change her name, it'd be ridiculous. There'd be no point. And so I gotta ask, would you be willing to be my son? I'd like to adopt you." As a 37-year-old man who had already spent a lifetime building this other name, gave it a lot of thought, a lot of prayer, a lot of talking. He said, "Man, if you're doing the job, you ought to have the title." Now, I can tell you that after getting adopted after 9/11, not an easy thing to do. FBI background checks, fingerprints, multiple trips in front of judge, stacks of paperwork, and a year and a half later, I was the first adult child adopted in the state of Florida. The question, who wants to be a dad? Before I met this man, I didn't. This thing, this four-letter word that only took 3 letters, the last thing on the planet I wanted was to pass that down to somebody. But instead, I got to learn what it was to be a dad. From my dad. From my mom, I got to learn, if you don't get it right the first time, my God, keep trying. Keep trying until you get it right. From my dad, I learned that being a dad is not a bad thing. I can assure you that it's because of this man that my wife is in that condition.
I have nothing.
Way out of context. I started this speech by asking the question, who wants to be a dad? I can now tell you, I do. Thank you. So that took us to, I don't know, the regional level, I think, at the International Toastmasters competition thing, and it was a lot of fun. And you know, it's one thing to give that speech, to share that story with a group of family, with a group of folks that I trust and I love, but to be sharing that story with a room full of people that you don't know, there's something there with owning your story, whatever your story is. Not all dads are perfect. Some dads screw up big time, give us an exact roadmap of what we don't want to be. Others give us something that we strive for. Others wind up somewhere in the middle. I got to officiate the funeral for my first biological dad as we released his ashes. And this continues to be a saga throughout my life. Now, today we're talking about Father's Day, and it's one thing we all have in common, because we all have a dad. Now, whether you had the, I'm going to show you what not to be, or whether you had the, I'm going to show you what to be, or anywhere in between, if you'd like to share a few moments who your dad was, I'd love to honor that. As we can see from our our shared experiences and our individual experiences, that you know, dads, there's no two that are alike. There are some that we try really hard to learn from at the time, and others that we learn from later. I was told with my biological dad that he was killed by a drunk driver on the way to my high school graduation. I learned him until I was 5, saw him once when I was 13 for about 10 minutes, and I was told he died on the way to my high school graduation. And then when I was about 29, 30 years old, he called my cell phone. He was alive and living in Elko, Nevada. I tried real hard to I called him and I called him and I called him, and it would just ring and ring and ring. And turned out that he was living in a little camper in the back of a pickup truck. And he would occasionally put his phone in the cigarette charger and charge it up. And so his phone was only on about 10 minutes a day. And if I caught that 10 minutes, I could have a conversation with him if he was sober enough to have one. And when he died, the hospital shipped his remains to me in a little box of stuff, and so I got to learn who my dad was and spend more time with him in powder form than as a human being. And most of us, all we wanted was time, was a conversation, was an understanding. And we can still have that today, whether our dads are in spirit, whether our dads are in physical form, whether we are dads, or whether we're with a dad that's special in our life, even if there is no DNA tie. You know, one of the the things that I saw and put on my Facebook wall, I was so excited about it, said any fool can be a father, but it takes someone special to be a dad. And so I'm trying to learn from each person, from each one of you, from each person, what a dad is, because I'm about to be one for the first time. So hopefully, with all your help, I'll remember who I am, what it is to be a dad. I'll be calling on you for love and support, stories and encouragement, because the same way that those are the things that I like to give, they're also the things that I like to receive. And in embarking on this new journey, I look forward to your help in being the best dad that I can. Thank you.
So every week we do a meditation. As we change things inside, it changes our outside world. So this morning, as you close your eyes and get comfortable in your chairs, I want you to feel yourself clear space. Clear space and invite in your dad's energy. If he's passed or if he's still alive, I want you to feel the ultimate version of his energy coming in. Him in his best form. Who is that man? If you were to see and feel your dad in his ultimate energy, and for a moment, just connect with him. There's words that you want to say, feelings that you want to express. As you connect with his energy, some foundational things we all seek from our fathers. That feeling of protection, of safety, acceptance, and love. For a moment, I want you to feel all those things coming from him, from his soul's energy being given to you. What does that feel like? And really open up your own energy and allowing yourself to receive it. Receive those gifts. Feeling loved. Accepted, wanted, protected. And for a moment, almost even going back to your birth, if you were to have all those things from your dad, from the moment that you were born and you grew up in that energy, what would your life be like? Who would you be? Feel that support, those loving, kind words come from your father as a small child. To have someone there to give you guidance when you needed it, support and love. As this is a day of honoring, I want you to imagine all those people that have stepped in as father figures in your life. And even your God, your Heavenly Father. That spiritual energy on the other side. Feeling those same gifts being given of love, acceptance, safety, protection. Knowing that you are not alone, that you're supported. Feeling that strength that comes from that energy, the confidence that comes from that energy. Able to walk through life being surrounded by the support. So for a minute, having this backing, having this energy behind you, I want you to feel yourself walking along your life's journey from this point forward with that strength, with that confidence, with that peace, and accomplishing and doing the things that you desire, you're set out to do. As you feel yourself taking those steps, walking along that path with that support, feel yourself come back into your physical body, feeling the changes even your physical body has, and allowing that energy into your life. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. For some of us grew up in that energy of love and acceptance, just strengthens it. For those that haven't, kind of brings in that missing piece that we always seem to be looking for or trying to find. It allows us to live life in a whole different energy when you allow yourself to know that it's always there, either on the spiritual side, from your actual parents, or even from friends or people that you end up running into in your life. But it's always there, just allowing it to come in and to accept it. And even within yourself, it gives you strength to not only bring those energies out in yourself, but to let them shine.